next speaker, Summayah Waseem. She's a recent grad, master at California State University, Northridge. She will be reporting on an application of ontological modeling analysis in the context of the building real estate domain. And the interesting story here is I was on a recent a visit to Egypt where they are building a mega city, a new capital, and there is a huge demand of builders developing buildings, and they want to get the building permit. So they have to submit some model or some plan of development and get it approved. And they're getting approved based on the building code, which is kind of like requirements. So I was speaking to the authority there, and I was telling them, this reminds me of a problem we're trying to solve in aerospace, where we have requirements, we're a building system, we want to make sure this system is based on requirements. So I came back and I started this project with Summayah, and you will hear about the result from her. All right, Summayah, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'll share my screen just right now. Okay, so today I'm gonna thank you for the introduction. So today I will be presenting about this framework that we came up with for ontological analysis of building code on BIM models. So as Majid just introduced, the building codes buildings have to go through a series of checks and processes and compliance checks to make sure that they're all safe, accessible, they meet up to all the laws and standards before they can actually start building them. So this process can manually be very time consuming. It can be error prone, where a lot of things can have a risk of oversight. It can be inefficient, especially as like these tall buildings and very complex models, making like more visual inspections can become more impractical. So we focused on trying to automate this process by extracting the data that we have inside the building model and using it to efficiently and quickly check the building model against these building codes and regulations and requirements. So just some key concepts about like the building world before we jump in. BIM means building information modeling. So it's basically just a more collaborative process that allows multiple disciplines to work on a single project within one integrated workspace. There's many different softwares out there, and we mainly in our study focused on using Revit. In industry foundation classes, IFC files are basically what we're exporting from the BIM software and is what is storing all that building data. And this is vendor neutral data schema. So this was developed by Building Smart to make sure that you can transport this data from like different applications and softwares, and so to enhance the interoperability, because of all the different BIM softwares, they all kind of have their different files, but this kind of keeps a way to keep things connected throughout all these different BIM softwares. And then what we focused on in our research was specifically the rules and regulations found within the International Building Code. So the IBC is a model building code developed by the International Code Council to address health and safety concerns in building construction. So it covers many areas like structural integrity, fire safety, accessibility, and energy efficiency. So linked building data is the ontological approach that we're using to kind of sort the data and then be able to query and make rules and use that data efficiently. So currently it's kind of more of an ongoing investigation on how best we can represent this building data. The IFC file itself isn't like directly kind of queryable or anything like that. And the first ontological approach was using the IFC OWL ontology, but that made the RDF graph too large and complex. So many different ontologies were made to kind of split things up and make it into a more holistic ontology that's more not too large and complex, and it's easier to query. So the W3 LBD linked building data community group was formed to propose model building in a better way and using key properties like topology, geometry, building related products and properties, the management of properties, and product management. Some of the key ontologies we worked with within LBD was bot. Bot was kind of like the overarching ontology. It defines the building component hierarchy. So it kind of kept everything, you kind of know where everything is, even within the RDF. So if it will define things if everything will be in site X or so everything is contained inside a site. And then specifically the building, everything will be contained within that building. And then you're divided up into stories and spaces, which can be like specific rooms, like the kitchen or like the bedroom. And then from there, specifically, you get like elements. So the bot will define an element, but that specific ontology won't define what type of element it is, like, oh, is it a wall or something like that. We can get into building element where that will specifically define what type of element it is. So we'll have this hierarchy of like where everything is placed. You can visualize that just from the RDF that you obtain. And then you have props, which just gives like general properties of each of the subjects. So that can anything from like the dimensions, the materials used, anything that needs to be specifically defined for that either building element or that zone or that story or anything. So our approach, we start with the BIM software. We specifically focused on Revit, and we also specifically focused on, we had a lot of help from Smart Review, which is a plugin for Revit, and that also does a very similar, it does pretty much the approach that we're doing, but outside the Revit space. But that one does it inside. So they check the building against the IBC, the International Building Code. And so with that plugin, they're able to also input extra information that we might need, like the building type and like extra information that we need to figure out the rules and like what exact information we need to calculate all these rules that are in the International Building Code. So we used Revit and Smart Review and exported the IFC model from there. And the IFC file would then be kind of enhanced with all these properties too that we need. And then from there, we'll commit it to GitHub. And then GitHub Actions will keep this like in a continuous workflow and try to keep everything up to date. It'll use this LBD converter. It's IFC to LBD converter. It's on GitHub. So it calls to that first and makes an RDF model. From there, we use the query engine and we construct Jupyter notebooks, which allow us to make rules and make like tables and graphs and charts and anything that we may need to work with the data using Python. And then this renders into a report, an HTML file, which we then host on GitHub pages. So here's just like a quick example of what a query might look like. So here we're kind of trying to we can find the height of a specific area, and the area of that story and everything, so we can get like we can like calculate some rules based on this information that we retrieve. And you can see we can get a lot of the properties. We can get the level and the height and the areas and all these different things by using Sparkle. So we specifically did a case study on this hotel here. It's 4 stories, a multi-occupancy hotel. And this was also provided to us by the CEO of SmartView, Bill Clayton. And we were able to kind of test all these different rules out on this specific hotel case study. And so overall, the results, I can quickly show kind of what that looks like. It's like we have this website set up, and then on the left-hand side, you can kind of see it's the International Building Code, the sections within it, and then you have the rules there, and then we get the results, and if it passes or not, and then like you can check like different like rules throughout and see if it compiles against the International Building Code or not. I'll just like, yeah, let you know, pass or fail. That's and so just overall some limitations and future work. So it kind of depends on the IFC file quality, like how well is the BIM model made, is all of these properties there. That's the only way we can extract those properties and calculate these rules. And then it's still a work in progress, the ontologies for it. So are some non-standardized property names. So making a more standard properties ontology would be very beneficial. And also moving away from relying on the Smart Review plugin, working on our own plugin or something to help bridge, like gather that information, or maybe working with them to find that like that data gap that we might need that might not be just directly inside the BIM file itself. And then also just an overall domain expertise gap. Like I'm a software engineering major, and like the building and engineering stuff was a little bit out of my domain knowledge as well. So like there's definitely a lot to be done and a lot to be studied that might slip from my notice and my advisor's notice as well. And like, so it's just, yeah, like hopefully there's like there's a lot to work on. There's hopefully like we can also incorporate AI for future like ruler interpretations, and then enhancing the data population area and just further testing, and then bringing in just more domain expertise. And hopefully there's, yeah, like I find I feel like there's a big future. There's a big like, there's like this application I feel like could be really beneficial in the industry. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Summayah.
Thank you.
We have a question from the room.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to say it's absolutely refreshing to see something that's not my traditional complex system arrangement. So thank you for this. This is truly informative. So my house is actually up in Altadena, and well, it's still standing. And so, I mean, being in Northridge, I would just say that I think that I think your conclusions are just great with regards to the end. There is that this does have a huge amount. I mean, we just look at California permitting, and I'm getting exposed to this right now. The notion of how long it takes to actually get permitting for these houses that are going to have to be rebuilt in Altadena and the Palisades. They say they're trying to fast track it, but I mean, it takes a human to read these. There's a huge amount of that. And so I guess, do you have a notion, my question, and then do you have a notion on what kind of return on investment extrapolated forward you could vision from this? Has it been part of your studies? Because I can imagine taking what you have done and making this a pitch to, California as government as a whole. If you could, yeah, so that's my question. It's about what you think about return of investment on this kind of application.
I think there's a great deal of return of investment on this, just because you could save theoretically so much time just by even like a few like basic rules that like it doesn't even have to be like all the rules, but even if you get the good majority, like 90% like chunk of them like integrated and it can be automatically checked, it's gonna save so much time. And I feel like saving that like cost of labor and all that sort of stuff, like it's just gonna like overall make the process faster. It's gonna make it's just gonna save time in other areas as well, and it's just gonna really make everything so much smoother. So I feel like there's just a lot of potential there, and I feel like if done right and given the time to it, like it's gonna I feel like there's a lot to, yeah, it'd be a really great product and application.
Yeah, I would say that one of the things that the way the fires have worked out, there may be a very rare opportunity here. I know, for example, universities have come to Altadena trying making free soil sample for different reasons, not necessarily this, but for the sake of the contamination, the lead, the nickel, they got everything like that. And so they did that. The rebuilding process is just now starting. They're doing all the debris clearing, but there's a whole slew of new homeowners are getting exposed to the building process for their properties. They're going to have to go through Title 24 California code.
Mhm.
And I'm just suggesting, as far as an opportunity for the university, is to think of a study that doesn't have to be a quick turnaround, but there are going to be a whole bunch of people who are going to get plan checking for these residences in these two burnt out areas in the next year or two. And so
Yeah.
there may be opportunities to propose a study that is, quote, done for free when you take their models from these architectural tools, because almost all of them are going to have to get architects, in order to use that as kind of a basis for moving forward, especially for checking California code. If you want to think about that or return on investment, you could say, we did a study with Palisades and Altadena's rebuilding efforts, and here's the results we had and how much we were able to expedite the actual permitting process theoretically.
Yes.
That might be a good opportunity. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is a really good suggestion.
So let's take one more question quick from Nicholas.
Actually, since you mentioned that the building codes are already defined and you're checking basically compliance with the codes, have you thought about repair in the sense that could you analyze the codes such that when a particular BIM fails some of these checks, like what Marcus was alluding to, could we actually then come up with repair suggestions to figure out how to bring a model that fails some requirements back into compliance? So the potential value then could be to effectively give the users, the architects, the homeowners, or whoever, a list of potential actions they could take to remedy non-compliance assessments.
Yes, I believe that's in the plan, and it like right now it's more so just like an explanation, like, oh, this failed and it's because of this reason, like it either didn't pass this check or this that, like, so it's more an explanation. But I like the idea of even going further into it, especially for when we start thinking about marketing it more to the general public with the homeowners and stuff like that. Then it might be like more going into like, oh yeah, how can you fix this, and how can what would the repair be and stuff like that. I feel like there's, yeah, we can look more into that as well.
I
That's a
resonate
good
with that
idea.
because I have unpermitted stuff up craziness on my house, and I have to deal with them right now. So
Thank you, Summayah.
you want a real expertise, you want a real experience, go and try and read the California residential code. I've tried. It is a bunch of requirements, but it's Byzantine.
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks again, Summayah.
Thank you